How many have cancer in the U.S. today? No man knows. What causes this is one of the riddles men puzzle over in their laboratories through a lifetime.
More people each year die of cancer in the United States than all the Americans who lost their lives in World War II.
70 years ago, a cure for cancer seemed like an impossible dream. Millions of people died every year while scientists struggled to study this life-threatening illness. Without essential knowledge of the immune system, scientists had no way to treat diseases like cancer. Over the decades that followed, the joint efforts of tenacious researchers and courageous patients and donors led to the development of bone marrow transplantation as a crucial part of the treatment method for cancers like leukemia. Not only did the exploration of bone marrow transplantation lead to one of the first cures for any type of cancer, but the resulting worldwide exchange of knowledge has laid the foundation for the future of cancer research. In the 1950s, a scientist by the name of Dr. Edward Donald Thomas spearheaded the exploration of bone marrow transplantation as one of the first cures for cancer.
At that time, the diagnosis of leukemia was a sentence of death, always in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks or months. And it was obvious that this was an area where there could be some improvement.
Dr. Thomas knew bone marrow held key information about our body's defense system, since the stem cells in the bone marrow produce blood cells that fight infections in our bodies. Occasionally, these stem cells malfunction to produce defective blood cells that fail to protect the body from infections. In some people, these cells could grow out of control, causing a cancer of the blood called leukemia. In the 1950s, it was known that methods like chemotherapy and radiation destroy cancer cells, but the treatments often also left the patient with no way to produce healthy blood. A research study was published during the time that showed that a transplant of the healthy bone marrow from a donor would allow the recipient's body to use stem cells from the new marrow to produce healthy blood. Based on this knowledge, Dr. Thomas and his colleagues believed that a transplantation of the bone marrow combined with methods like chemotherapy and radiation could lead to a cure for leukemia. By the 1960s, chemotherapy and radiation methods had improved survival rates for a fraction of leukemia cases, but it was evident that more work needed to be done to find a cure for the majority of patients. Partially because of this promising exploration in bone marrow transplantation, President Richard Nixon officially declared America's war on cancer in 1971.
The time has come in America when the same kind of concentrated effort that split the atom and took man to the moon should be turned toward conquering this dread disease.
After the initial research and testing, Dr. Thomas and his colleagues performed the first human unrelated bone marrow transplant for leukemia on 10-year-old Laura Graves in the late 1970s. After other treatment methods for her leukemia failed, the Graves family had turned to the promising new treatment method of bone marrow transplantation. Laura received a transplant at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle, Washington, and showed no signs of leukemia for 2 years. This was a drastic improvement from the average survival time of leukemia patients at that time. This encounter taught researchers to find better matches between patients and donors, making it possible for future patients to live an entire life without a recurrence of leukemia. The continued exploration of bone marrow transplantation improved the success rates of the treatment. As a result of this exchange of knowledge between scientists and doctors in the years that followed the first few successful transplants, the survival rate for leukemia rose to 71%. After these first few transplants, researchers explored how to identify well-matched donors. Laura Graves' family took the initiative to start a national registry for bone marrow donors called the Laura Graves Foundation in hopes that future leukemia patients would have the option to find a better match.
We do have a very large unrelated donor registry. It's worldwide. There's more than 25 million people who have volunteered, actually totally out of the goodness of their heart, to give their stem cells to someone else.
The Laura Graves Foundation, now called Be the Match, allows people around the world to easily sign up to be a donor and provides critical donor information to physicians treating leukemia patients.
This year, over 1 million people have had bone marrow transplants. We've passed the 1 million mark. Every year, we're treating about 70,000 people with diseases that would otherwise be fatal. And so that's of huge importance.
In recognition of the immense impact of his exploration in bone marrow transplantation, Dr. Edward Donald Thomas was awarded the 1990 Nobel Prize for Medicine or Physiology. Over the decades, the knowledge gained from bone marrow transplants has become essential to the immense progress made in cancer research.
But the other and perhaps even more important implication of bone marrow transplantation is that we have found that one of the ways that bone marrow transplantation cures leukemia is because the new immune system, which grows out of the bone marrow, is seeing the leukemia as being foreign and rejecting it.
Still, sometimes the new immune system becomes so strong that it attacks the healthy part of the patient, causing other serious health issues for the patient even as they survive their cancer. However, scientists have used the knowledge gained from bone marrow transplantation to guide new treatments that help to balance the immune system of the donor and the patient.
I also think bone marrow transplant from a research standpoint here at the Hutch has really opened the door on a lot of other areas of research, really an understanding of how stem cells work and how they can be used in many different areas of medicine. So.
And bone marrow transplantation has been the inspiration for immunotherapy, which is now becoming the most important new form of therapy for all of cancers that all grew out of observations from bone marrow transplantation.
One of the primary new treatments is called immunotherapy. This method harnesses the body's immune system to fight diseases like cancer by more precisely targeting cancer cells. This reduces the damage to the patient's healthy cells during treatment. As a result, the patients experience fewer side effects and recover more easily. The exchange of ideas about bone marrow transplantation and the exploration of new types of cures such as immunotherapy give hope to leaders of our society that a more reliable cure for all cancers is possible, inspiring them to continue the fight against cancer.
That with a new moonshot, America can cure cancer. So tonight I'm announcing a new national effort to get it done.
And we are so close, so incredibly close on finding cures and fundamental changes and making it a chronic disease in many cases and not a death sentence.
In addition to its effects on society, bone marrow transplantation has also had a profound impact on the lives of individual patients and those close to them. This revolutionary treatment method and the cures it has influenced provide hope for cancer patients where there once was none.
So I was diagnosed with mantle cell lymphoma in 2005, and I saw the word cure on a slide. It was quite exciting. This Valentine's Day is the 40th Valentine's Day I'm spending with my husband, and that's incredibly valuable.
Over the past 5 decades, over 1 million people have donated their bone marrow in the hopes to save the lives of cancer patients. These selfless acts continue to inspire donors and patients to this day. The hope that bone marrow transplants provide people has encouraged many to unite in an effort to fight this fatal disease.
It's advanced our medical knowledge and our treatments for these diseases, but I actually think that it kind of gives hope to people too. I think when people hear about transplants and what unrelated people will do for patients in need, when they see people who would otherwise die who've been cured from this type of therapy, I think it really is quite uplifting.
The emotional encounter between a patient and their bone marrow donor can also lead to a lifelong bond.
And then when he came around the corner.
Oh, shit. We won! We did it! We won!
The lives of the friends, parents, and children of millions of people have been changed by bone marrow transplantation and the cures it has inspired. The exploration of bone marrow transplantation has brought together patients, donors, scientists, and leaders worldwide to join forces to find a cure for every type of cancer.